Hello, good afternoon. How are you? My name is Chris Russo with 123soulcash.com. We buy properties, we pay cash, we buy single family, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condo, townhouses, land, small commercial, and we buy it anywhere in the state of Florida and also outside of the state of Florida. That's case by case. Today I'm going to talk about a deal that I closed. It's in Vero Beach, and it was a rental property. And let me see here. We bought it for $125. There's a cheap price. And they had tenants inside the property. Whenever I buy properties in the tenant, first thing the seller asks is, hey, can they stay in the property? Normally I say yes, depending. If they're not paying on time, I'll still buy the property, but it would have to be at a discount. So normally what we do is yes. The answer is yes. And sometimes they're on month to month or sometimes on yearly lease. If it's a yearly lease, I would have to buy the property with them in it because they have a yearly lease and cannot break the lease. So, and a lot of times it's month to month, and I'll buy it, and then afterwards I'll either keep it at the same rent or increase the rent or give them an option to leave, give them a 30-day notice. So the answer to that is when I'm buying rental properties, most of the time I will buy the property with the tenants in there. And what I do is I send them what's called an estoppel letter. Estoppel letter gives the payment amount, the next payment due, if they're behind in any payments, the security deposit or any other deposit, any guidelines or regulations or anything in reference to the tenant. And then what I do is I send it to the seller signs it, and then also the tenant signs it to confirm. Because if there is a deposit, the title company would have to put that on the HUD, the closing statement, and it would be a credit toward the buyer. So anyway, he called from my, I think it was my TV ad again, and I gave him an offer, and he said, yep, I'll take it. And we closed within 30 days. And it was a smooth transaction. Everything went smooth. And then he said, Chris, to close this one, I have another property that I want to sell. And so that one we're working on now. So yes, the answer to your question on this topic, buying properties with tenants in the property, sure, I'll buy it. And even if they're behind, and they're behind a couple months, or they're just not paying, or they're squatters, I'll buy it also. But obviously there would have to be more of a discount. The reason is because I got to take into consideration I have to hire an attorney, an eviction attorney, and they got to go through the process. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll give them cash for keys. I'll tell them, listen, I'll go through the process, ask them nicely to leave, that I'm buying the property or I bought the property. And they say no, or they give me some trouble, I'll say, okay, I'll give you cash for keys. I'll give you cash now that you leave. And if not, I'll go through the eviction process, and then you will not receive anything. And there's a process. Obviously, you got to speak to an attorney on this. More or less, they hire a processor. They put a notice on the door. There's a certain amount of days. And then there's another process. And then finally, the judge signs off that it's eviction. And then eventually, if they're still there, the sheriff comes, they knock on the door, and they evict them. And they have to take all their belongings out. That's a simple, quick, short version of it. But actually, it's longer than that. And again, I'm not an attorney, but you have to speak to an attorney, and they'll explain the process. And by the way, I have an attorney that I work with who does all my evictions. So that's it, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.